Hey everybody, Paddy here. Now thank you so much for watching and listening to TFN, which of course stands for The Effin' News. Now every week I find amazing people and positive stuff, lessons, solutions, inspiration to make the place we live better for us all. Now here is what's coming up on this show. First up, our great Kiwi. Today, well, he's not a Kiwi, but he definitely is great. I'm talking to UK comedian Ben Elton about New Zealand. Today's good Kiwi are using their honeymoon to raise money for charity. How? By driving a Mini the length of the country. Next, how good is sucking up to Trump? Donald Trump, that is. Spoiler alert, it's good. And after that, I've got good news from a brainy Kiwi amidst the world's tariff meltdown. Finally, I want you to meet famous American outlaw driver Alex Roy, who broke the record for driving across America. His next adventure might just start in Christchurch. Right, let's get into it. Time to meet our great Kiwi. So Ben Elton is a legend of comedy from way back in the 1980s when he redefined British comedy with shows like Blackadder through his 16 novels. Yes, 16 novels this guy's written, and then all of his movies and musicals and all of that kind of stuff. He comes to New Zealand regularly to bring us his stand-up shows, and he's here now on The Effin' News. Ben Elton, welcome to the fucking news, because that's the show that you're on right now.
Okay, well, I'm very fucking happy to be on the fucking news.
This is the fucking news. That's what we call this. We call it the effing news, but we can say fucking.
Okay.
So thanks very much for coming.
Okay, fuck yeah. All right.
This is going to be good. And welcome to New Zealand. You know, you're on another tour here, and something that I really, really rate about you is something that I like doing here, which is getting out to the regions of New Zealand. I love it as well, but you're the real big time. But you like getting out to small town regional New Zealand.
Well, look, it's more getting out to see people who want to see me. I've been fortunate. I've had a lovely long career in Britain, New Zealand, and Australia. That's the market that knows me. And as long as they want to come and see me, I'll go and see them. So yeah, I mean, my promoter said, look, we've got Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch selling well. So do you want to, take on a few other towns? And of course, yeah. And we've even booked a holiday to finish it. We finish in Christchurch, or I finish, and then my wife's joining me probably for the last gig. And we're going to have a week in the Southern Alps. So, yeah, we're making the most of New Zealand this time.
You're going to have a week in the Southern Alps?
Yeah, a proper holiday. We've got booked a, luxury, place. Going to be wine and walks and fires, and we're fantastic. Can't wait. Because I've done 110 gigs so far on this tour, and there'll be about another 7 in Oz, and then comes New Zealand. It's all been a preparation for New Zealand. I've been building a plinth. The UK, I did Amsterdam, I did Oslo, and of course Ireland, and now Australia. And when I get to New Zealand, I'll have got it right.
Yeah, and one thing I really wanted to talk to you, I've read lots of your novels, and I always find that you're really on the zeitgeist. And, one of the big issues in New Zealand, this might surprise you as well, it might not, at the moment is wokeness, and we're trying to get our heads around wokeness. Now, you wrote Identity Crisis about 5 years ago, is that right?
I did, yeah. I'm always ahead of the game.
No, we're behind.
Dame Emma Thompson says I'm a prophet. She says every book seems to be, 5 years ahead. I like to look around and see the funny and see the interesting in the world I live in. I'm endlessly interested in humanity and my place amongst it. Look, I don't think this woke business. I've always had a bit of on the whole, I tend to be very pro-progressive thinking. I mean, what we call woke now used to be called political correctness. And some people kind of blame me for it. They think I was the sort of godfather back in the 80s. Oh, Ben Elton railing against sexism and everything. Like, oh, you can't even be funny about sex. Of course you can be funny about sex. And you can have cheeky comedy and titillating comedy, but sexist comedy where women are just the butt of the joke, where their bodies are just the props for male humour, that was something that was never funny particularly. So what I'm saying is, change is always difficult, and what we, everything that we value was once considered outrageously politically correct. Look, female suffrage at one point was, that's going too far. We shouldn't be able to beat them within a marriage, but giving them the vote, that's a bit much. Like, emancipation of slavery at one point was considered radical left-wing thinking. Woke isn't killing comedy. Gen Z's not trying to silence us. There'll always be zealots on the fringe now on the internet, so that gives them much more anonymous power, who go too far, who police, suddenly you have a kind of Orwellian hate crime, whereas if you don't agree with us, you're an evil fascist. And that's not good for democracy if everybody is drawing such absolutist lines. And, of course, the beneficiary is the likes of Donald Trump, who will weaponize people's confusion and turn it into hatred. I like to recognise the positive in the new thinking. I think there's much to be valued. And I still find I can say anything I like. I'm always careful about how I say it because I don't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah, so you say whatever you want, but you're careful about saying it.
Because I apply my morals. I'm not going to punching down is the new way. They say don't punch down. Real comedy is recognising your own weakness and then having the audience say, I'm like that too. You know what I mean? If you can find a way to celebrate our shared smallness, our humanity, the fact that we're all scared, we all want to be liked, we're all vain. If Donald Trump had the slightest idea of what a small man he is, he'd probably be a better person for it. But this kind of vainglorious grandstanding is what's the problem.
Because, Emma Thompson has described you as a prophet, as you've said yourself.
Yeah, I said it.
You are a prophet.
That's
for people in New Zealand, Kiwis who are anxious about Donald Trump, what sort of prophecy do you have about the kind of world that people are worried about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Donald Trump is obviously a symptom. In the internet, I knew it. I think most people could see that it wasn't going to democratize knowledge. It was actually going to democratize ignorance. It means that we used to there'll be no gatekeepers, but gatekeepers actually used to editors for all. I didn't much like the press. They were answerable. They were answerable to the law. They were accountable. Nothing on the internet is accountable, and I think that we're going to have to struggle to deal with this. It's a problem that's unwinding in real time. Clearly as we speak, society is in great flux. Trump, this famous move fast and break things, which the tech bros seem to think. I never thought breaking things was a particularly great ambition. I think I'm hoping that the example of a bunch of strong men emerging and promising they're going to fix things will very quickly pall. I hope it will actually return us to community values where we realise that things are fixed by communities. But individuals hoping that Elon Musk or some other tech bro or some strong politician will fix everything is clearly madness. And I hope this is exposed. And we'll realise that it takes a village to fix things. I don't know. I have to be optimistic. I've got kids. I want the human race to continue. But these are dangerous times. There's no doubt. We're looking at the possibility of Europe rearming. All Trump's pulling out of the American nuclear umbrella seems to have mean is a proliferation of suddenly the French and the British are saying, well, we're going to have to build more nukes. It's a sad time.
So even you're shitting yourself about Donald Trump. The prophet's worried.
I'm not really. Look, Emma was being very kind. Look, I live a lot of the time in Europe. Yeah, I'm worried. Putin is clearly a lunatic. He's on the march. Whatever we let him take, he'll take. And that's a scary prospect.
Well, let's talk about wellness because you're 65, I see. You're turning 66 on the tour. You're going to celebrate, down by Mount Cook here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. How good.
Yeah.
Wellness. Are you into wellness or something? Because you look well, you look great.
I exercise every day, but I love to drink. I will never give up booze. I adore it, and I hate the fact that governments seem to see it as their duty to endlessly tick us off for doing the things we like. Some health campaigns are fine. The cigarettes, that was kind of fine, but now let's do it on booze, let's do it on food. I think, this idea that longevity is the only worthwhile medical ambition, that it basically, medicine has won if we can all just live longer and longer and longer. I think that's madness because they don't consider the quality of life. And, I was doing a routine on my last tour, the government was terribly pleased and anxious for us all to know that apparently it's a fact, and it is a fact, that if you drink even in moderation, it'll knock 2 years off your life. And the British kind of government was going, everyone should know this because imagine it, lose 2 years of your life just for a few glasses of wine. Who would do that? They don't tell you which 2 years. They mean the last 2 years. I don't want to live those last 2 years. I watch my parents. It's not nice. I'd rather have a few more drinks and avoid the last few years. I think wellness is a state of mind. I exercise because I like to drink. I don't drink every night anymore. I used to. I don't anymore. But when I do drink, I get on it. I like to eat. I like to eat fish and chips and roast meals and things. So.
This is a great wellness routine.
Yeah,
this is incredible.
I think on the whole, you know, a healthy lifestyle means everything in moderation, but my idea of moderation on a night when I'm drinking is let me say I've moved the goalpost considerably.
Yes, now I'm very well known. You won't realise this. I'm very well known for not drinking in this country.
Really? Are you a recoverer?
Yeah. But
do you mean you're an alcoholic?
Yes, but not anymore.
I thought you were always an alcoholic.
I think some people say that.
Because that was my joke. People say, well, of course, you know, I've been dry for 30 years, but I'm still an alcoholic. And I said, well, have a bloody drink then. It's obviously not working.
You can have one for me while you're out here. Now,
no, look, if you, that's my point. If you drink a teaspoon of wine and you go out and fight a policeman and you can't give up that teaspoon of wine, you're an alcoholic. But if, like me, you drink a bottle and a half of wine, but you pay your tax, you love your wife, and you don't get into fights, then why think about giving it up? What's the problem? You know, that's my... Of course, if, you know, it's like with fast foods. If you're finding that it's, you know, it's affecting your life and you can't give it up and you're becoming obese or whatever, then you need to try and address that. But if you're enjoying occasional McDonald's and, you know, what is the problem?
Yeah, no, but you look great. So you keep enjoying it. Enjoy it while you're here. Will your next novel be on wellness then? Because this is a huge industry.
Well, no. I think people were taking a piss out of Gwyneth Paltrow years ago. I think that's a boat I don't particularly want to get on. I think it's too easy a target. You know, unfortunately, I think the times are going to get very difficult and dangerous in the short term. And wellness will be a question of staying alive and keeping democracy afloat. I think wellness at the moment is averting a resurgence of global fascism. That's my view. So you want to talk about wellness, let's make sure centre-right governments stay centre and don't start drifting further and further to the right by massaging hatred. That's my view.
This is the prophecy. It came in the end from the prophet.
It's a plea rather than a prophecy.
Yeah, it's a plea. And finally, this segment of the fucking news is called Great Kiwi. We always have Great Kiwi on here. You're obviously not a Kiwi, but we do ask all of our Kiwis to give advice to other Kiwis, just something from their life. So, yeah, I'm asking you as a great Kiwi, an honorary one.
Yeah, I've been here a lot.
Yeah, well, give us some advice.
Which is kind of halfway.
Yes, that's right. Well, I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah,
but
I know. Sometimes it tells against you, but I'm British and Australian now because I married an Aussie girl. My advice is the same advice that Polonius gave to Hamlet in Shakespeare's great play.
Shit.
And that is, above all to thine own self be true. I think that works as a comedian. Don't crack a joke if you really know it's not funny. It's just getting an easy, brutal laugh. Saying some group are work shy or some group are stupid. You know it's a lie. Don't say it. Find a good joke. Find a joke about your own weakness that you can share and that other people will celebrate theirs too. In politics, don't say something you know's not true. Don't say, oh, immigrants are eating their cats like Trump did. He knew that wasn't true, but he thought, well, this is an easy win. I'll say it anyway. Above all to thine own self be true. If everybody was just honest and didn't sort of let themselves off, let them say a lie because it gets a laugh or it gets a thumbs up, you know, I think we'd all be better off. I try and be honest in my life and in my work.
Brilliant interview. Thank you very much, Ben Elton.
My pleasure.
Ben's tour goes to Wellington, Auckland, Dunedin and Christchurch. Ticketmaster has the tickets. Right. Now it's time to meet today's Good Kiwi. Okay, pop quiz. For your honeymoon, would you A, raise money for charity by jumping into a 50-year-old car with windscreen wipers that don't really work and drive the length of New Zealand in the pouring rain? Or B, go to Tahiti? Our good Kiwi this week chose A.
So my name's Amy Langfield. I come from Nelson and I'm a dentist.
I'm also from Nelson, named Shaw Elmsley.
And you're a mini team?
We are definitely a mini team called Beauty and the Beast on honeymoon.
Which one's Beauty, which one's the Beast?
So I'm the Beauty, I think. Am I the Beauty?
So you're on your honeymoon doing the pork pie run, the length of New Zealand.
Yep, all the way from Paihia to Invercargill.
This is actually your honeymoon.
This is actually our honeymoon.
Yeah.
And honeymoons are supposed to be fun, and this is the most fun thing you can do. It's so much fun, and we like to enjoy it with everyone that you see here.
It's good to see them doing it, yeah. They're a fun couple, and great to hang around. And
Would you have done your honeymoon on this trip?
I would have, but my wife may have objected slightly, yeah.
You obviously are raising money for Kids Can.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
So Kids Can is a really good charity. It helps kids that can't afford, or parents that can't afford them, to have an equal opportunity in life. We just try our hardest to raise enough money as we can. And so far, I think that this morning it was over $411,000.
Yeah.
$411,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You obviously love minis, I take it.
Yeah, no, we're mini mad. We've got four minis at home.
You've got 4 minis at home.
We do have 4 minis at home, yes. They breed. They do breed. Shaw fixes them up. I make them look good, and he breaks them, and then I fix them.
Okay, that's a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah. So our mini here, it's 1978 mini estate. So we affectionately call him Moto.
I like them chunky, it says.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thoughts on that? How many minis did you have at your wedding?
Oh.
About 16, I think.
Yeah, 16 all up. It was a requirement for most of the guests. If they had a mini, they had to bring it.
No matter where they lived, they had
Yeah.
to come over. And so lots of people that you see today brought their minis to celebrate with us.
See you later, he's mine. Thank you. He's mine. I'm going to tell you that this pork pie charity run isn't just making a whole lot of noise and fun for the people on it. As I record this, they have just finished up in Invercargill and they've raised about $500,000 for Kids Can, so that Kiwi kids in need have the essentials to thrive in the classroom. Incredible. You can still donate. porkpiecharity.org.nz. Righto. Today's very pointy opinion piece is about Donald Trump. Time for today's How Good. How good is sucking up to Donald Trump? Really good. It hurts me to say this because I don't like sucking up to anybody, but we must suck up to Donald Trump right now. Why? It is going to save New Zealand from the worst of his crazy trade war. We must suck up to survive. All those Kiwis saying, call Donald Trump out, now is the time to speak up and we must stand up for ourselves, are just plain crazy. There is absolutely no point in doing a golf right now. Here is our diplomatic game plan straight from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Donald Trump is the schoolyard bully. As one of the smallest kids in class, New Zealand must hide from him. If the bully does notice us, we must suck up to him. It's that simple. Because one thing really stands out to me about Donald Trump across his first term and this one, he has barely mentioned New Zealand. He's never met with anyone from New Zealand. We are just not on Donald Trump's radar at all. It is a real positive in the current craziness. It is no coincidence that New Zealand has escaped relatively unscathed compared to the rest of the world. We have a 10% tariff, which is effectively a 10% tax on Kiwi exports going into the States, much lower than other places. We need to keep things this way. So we need to keep our mouths shut and not alert Trump to our existence. And if we can do things to suck up to Trump, we should do them. Take Phil Goff. Personally, I want to give Goffy a knighthood for calling Trump out. But actually, it is better to suck up to America and fire Goff's butt. So thank God we did. Because maybe some Trump underling will have noticed. Sorry, Phil, and thanks for your service. Everybody wants to be the hero and stand up to the schoolyard bully. But right now is not the time to be a hero. Don't be a hero, New Zealand. It is just not worth it. New Zealand literally makes our money by selling to the world. Trump could destroy our economy with a stroke of that pen of his. So let's just keep sucking up to Trump. Try not to upset him. Hope he doesn't notice us. And most of all, hope it works. I know it sucks, but we have to keep sucking up to Donald Trump. Our brainy Kiwi today says the economic mess created by Donald Trump is not bad for New Zealanders and might bring us a chance to do quite well. Leighton Roberts is the CEO of Sharesies, and he's with me now. Leighton, we need something positive out of all of this. As one of the brainiest Kiwis in the world of finance, can you help us, please? Leighton, how big, how unusual, how important? Break it down for us. How does this tariff meltdown fit in to the sort of history of stock market and finances and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, firstly, very big and very important. I heard someone this morning actually say that they've been covering US equities for nearly 4 decades, and it's one of the three most strange or significant times that they recall. So that's very large. I heard another quote that I really enjoyed was that lots of people were saying that it's unprecedented. But for markets, this type of unprecedented is happening so regularly, it seems at the moment, that it's pretty much becoming precedented. So it really depends who you want to listen to on that. But just the scale of it, firstly, we're getting close actually to the market dropping as far as what it did in COVID. So that March 2020 time, which was a really significant, fell off a cliff because the uncertainty was really out the gate around then. And if you think about that, that's when we've got a global pandemic coming. No one knows exactly, how that's going to impact the world. We're shutting borders, and that's the level of uncertainty that these tariffs have introduced to the market. So, first time we've seen trade wars like this since the early 1900s, and there's not many of us, if any, around on the planet that remember that.
Yeah, okay. So unprecedentedness. I'm not sure quite how to pronounce it, but yeah, that's sort of what it sounds like. Now,
Yeah.
Leighton, in terms of the ordinary Kiwi, is there any positive news out of this for the ordinary Kiwi? What positives can we take out of this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always surprised by how Kiwis react to this type of thing, and that's no different this time. So I'll just pull this out from the investing side because that's obviously the bit I'm closest to. But we've got right now on Sharesies, for example, we've got record signups, and we've actually seen some of our biggest buying days or trading days in months and months. So people seem to be looking at this as a bit of an opportunity, and that's one thing that uncertainty drives. So whilst we don't really know exactly how low these markets are going to go, in general, there's a lot of optimism around New Zealand and the world that things will get better and we will sort this out, and that companies will end up growing again over time. And I like it. I agree with that confidence, and I like the fact that it seems on the back of KiwiSaver, on the back of a lot of education from businesses like ourselves and others, and then access with much smaller amounts. It seems that that New Zealanders generally feel a lot more confident around this, and people are picking their own paths and strategies here, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of panic. So I think that's really positive.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you're saying that Sharesies is actually showing record signups. People want to get in and take advantage of low markets, buy low, knowing that markets will inevitably return. Is that what you're saying?
I think there's people being very strategic about what they're doing. I'd say that I could probably put them into 4 different camps of people. We've definitely got the people with the head in the sand. So that's people who don't want to look, and that's an absolutely fine strategy. That's probably what a lot of people are doing with their KiwiSaver. But the good news for these KiwiSaver investors is those who don't, make jerk reactions to things and end up switching funds, then they are buying the same assets they were buying last month, but at much cheaper prices. So over time, that should do very well for them. So that's the first bucket. The second one is the opportunists. So that's the people coming in and looking for opportunity and buying companies. It tends to be so very large companies who they now perceive to be at a bit of a discount. Then we've got people looking to cover their risk a bit. So we're seeing actually more of a move of people into buying funds and ETFs than what we've seen over the last few months. So that's sort of people looking for that diversification. Gold's come back on our radar a lot. So people buying gold, and that's from that bucket of people. And then we've got our dollar cost averages who are just our auto investors who just stick to it, and every week they put however much money in, $50 or so, and they just keep buying, and they seem to just be rolling with that as well. And I think surprisingly we're seeing a huge number of buys at the moment over sells, even though everything in the media and saves stuff is like a little bit sky is falling. So yeah, there's all sorts of behaviors, but by and large, I think a really positive reaction from New Zealanders towards what's happening here, particularly from an investing point of view.
Yeah, so just finally, for the average Kiwi, now is a good time to invest in shares, potentially buy now, so to speak.
Well, What we do know is that the prices for these companies are cheaper than what they were last week and the week before that, and actually for quite some time. And that if we're going to live in a world where businesses are still trying to solve problems and make money is one of the key things they're doing, then one of the things I like to think about is how much energy there is from businesses around the world right now going into work out what these tariffs, if they come to be or if they don't, what that means for them, and adjusting their strategy. And I find that a really powerful thought, because ultimately we know these companies are going to try to find a way. And if they don't, then we're in a much different world where it probably doesn't matter how your investment portfolio turned out anyway.
Yeah. So, a good time to invest in shares, Leighton, potentially.
I never like saying it, but I definitely think it was better than last week. And my personal strategy, I fall into that dollar cost averaging camp where I still I enjoy a bit of the theatre of all of this from a market's point of view. I suppose it's pretty complicated at a political and macro level, that's for sure. So I spend a bit of time thinking about that too. But just for investing, for me, it's just staying the course. Yep.
Staying the course, yeah, or a good time to stay the course. Thank you very much, Leighton Roberts from Sharesies, a very brainy Kiwi. Thanks for your time. Time now for a really interesting TFN Extra. We met Amy and Shaw earlier, raising money by emulating an outlaw drive from the top of New Zealand to the bottom. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I met a real outlaw driver who once broke the record for driving at illegal speeds across the United States of America. He's now a very influential guy and a massive fan of this country, so I wanted to see what we could learn from him. Alex Roy, welcome to New Zealand. It's awesome to have you here in Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Great to meet you. I've been a fan for a long time for reasons you may already guess.
Yeah. Well, you probably don't realise, but the show that you're on right now is called The Fucking News. So you are actually on The Fucking News. So
Thank you.
I presume that's the reason you're a fan of mine.
Yes.
You see me swear in the library and go viral?
I did, but I used to be a journalist, so I appreciate journalists with personality, perspective, trying to do real stories, and you do.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm also well known in New Zealand for smoking weed on TV. So I don't know if you knew that. But
but as you wish.
For Kiwis who don't know some of the things you've done, I mean, one does stand out as being a little different. The Cannonball Run,
Yes.
That is legendary. Tell us about the Cannonball Run for people who won't know what it is. Many will.
Well, a lot of people think the cannonballing is just driving fast, hooning a car and being dangerous. But there is a subset of people who treat it like a real race, like the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And I'm part of that group. And 20 years ago, we began driving across the United States as quickly as possible.
And for people, who are wondering, how long does it take to drive across the states in a Cannonball Run? How quickly did you do it in?
My team did it in 31 hours and 4 minutes. I'm retired from that now, and now do drives for the purpose of testing safety systems, electric cars, most recently a Tesla, and the dream has been to set the global circumnavigation driving record from Greenwich, UK to Christchurch and back.
What, you want to do that?
That is the plan. I've been planning it for 11 years.
Because I always ask people, I've got something called Kiwi Dream, where I ask people what their Kiwi dream is, which is what their dream is. So what is your Kiwi dream, Alex Roy?
The dream is you are standing in Cathedral Square next to a time clock. The car lands from Australia. We drive there. The mayor's there. You and I have a laugh. We turn around, leave, go back to the US, and keep going. The record is 21 days and 9 hours, but you must stop in Christchurch. Can't lie. Part of the reason I wanted to come here wasn't just to invest in startups. It was to see the city for myself and figure out where we're going to do that.
So you are going to do this, a circumnavigation of the world, and set the record in a vehicle.
That's the plan. Not imminent, but absolutely inevitable. But it's the spirit of the thing is the thing. And in our case, we want to demonstrate clean technology. We're still investigating what car we'll use. Could be hydrogen, could be something else.
Yeah, so that is something you're interested in, clean technology, or you're interested in all sorts of technology. That's what's brought you to New Zealand with Far Out. Do you see opportunity here to invest and boost our technology sector, Alex Roy?
Well, of course. In my other life, in my primary life, I have a venture capital fund called a New Industry Venture Capital. We invest in the United States and allied nations, and we do supply chain, robotics, clean technology and defense. And so there are several companies here. In fact, there's a representative of all of those verticals here. And I just met a gentleman who has a hydrogen company that seems very promising.
So you are seeing things that you want to invest in. We could well see you invest in New Zealand, because that would be amazing.
I'll be back again. If I could choose, I would live here. It is absolutely as fantastic as everyone has told me, and I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, and you think you will invest here? I'm not trying to force you to, but you...
Well, I'd rather not say until I've met all the possible companies, but I mean, it is fantastic. And there's no coincidence that many colleagues of mine in venture capital from the US now have spent a lot of time here. And I'm, Rob Conabier is a good friend of mine, and he's told me for years I have to come down. I'm sorry I waited so long. I'll be back.
And lots of people will be looking at you, an incredibly adventurous person, a person who pushes boundaries, not just with the Cannonball Run, but with venture capital. What needs to be inside someone who wants to be a founder, someone who wants to be an entrepreneur? What do they need to find inside themselves? You've learnt this through a lifetime of discovery.
You can't be afraid to fail, and you must always keep going. It's like a car race. It doesn't matter if you don't come in first, but you must finish. You cannot have a DNF. You must finish. And so many great founders, in fact, every great founder has failed every time until they succeeded. And to be a success, you must be an optimist. You must. There's nothing else. And of course, honesty. Honesty.
Honesty is important.
Yes.
So optimism is something that you have.
It's everything.
Tell me more.
My father, who fought in the Second World War and came to the United States, said that he would never complain about anything ever again. And he always said, we are the luckiest people in the world because we got to start over. And starting over is an essential part of growing up. I'm the father to a 6-year-old. She's still afraid to try new things. I read her Green Eggs and Ham almost every night, hoping she'll get the lesson. She just got the lesson. She's back on her scooter and on her bicycle, starting to ride like an adult. There is a debate over what God is, what faith is, but it's inside all of us. It is the belief that we can always do better, pick ourselves up and keep going. And that is, to me, the most powerful force in the world.
Great answer. And finally, there's so much going on in the world right now. Wildfires in California are over your way. Climate change we see. Many people are concerned about the election of Donald Trump in the United States of America. What sort of advice do you have for people dealing with this changing world? Are you worried by what you see?
Well, in the short term, I'm worried about everything. But in the long term, I've never been more optimistic. There is a myth that things are changing faster than ever before, that things are crazier, that we can never understand it. But that is true of every era, from the printing press to the arrival of electricity to cell phones and aviation. Everyone always believes they live in crazy times. One must take a deep breath and think about what never changes. Family, friends, human nature, a good meal, and a good night's sleep. There will never be peace outside the walls of our home, but one can have peace and think about what matters on that day. I'm Alex Roy, and this is the fucking news.
All right, that's TFN for another week. Now, if you hear of anything or know of anything that can bring some positivity to the world of news in this country, get in touch. Paddy@tfn.co.nz. See yous next week. Cheers.